Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman, providing the internet connection here is stable enough up in Sheffield. How are you doing, mate? England have just beaten Austria 1-0 up in Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I'm fine, mate, and I think we can move on now. I think that's all that needs to be said about that game because it wasn't one for the ages, was it? We were both just talking off air about how excited we were when first England game in a while, and you saw the starting lineup, and obviously Ollie had decided to stay with the boys. He only made the bench, but he decided to stay with the boys instead of going home, which I think was a really great move from him. But in the lineup, obviously you had Ty and Jack, and you sort of think, this could be exciting. And I don't know about you, mate, but I think it always provides a bit of an excitement when England go on tour and they don't play at Wembley. I think it's always nice when you sort of get to see it in a new setting, see some different sort of, you get some new fans in the ground. I think the atmosphere is generally a bit better than it is at Wembley as well. So that added to the excitement that it was up in Borough. But after about half an hour or so, it soon fizzled out, didn't it, mate?
It did. We had some very, very brief discussions about how we could kind of clickbait this episode. And I don't think we can claim that Grealish got an assist for that goal because it looks like it actually came off Sabitza's foot. But as you said, it was an underwhelming game. We were both very excited for this. Dan's rushed back from Manchester in time so as we could watch the games, as we could record this podcast for you guys. It's actually gonna transform into something else again. We'll just briefly kind of touch on the England game, and then as the title will suggest, we're going to actually talk about the probably the craziest link so far of the summer, Dan, with Emile Smith-Rowe being linked to the Villa, which is just absolutely mental. But it was good to see Jack today occupy a position more in the centre of the park. I felt, Dan. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he does line up Southgate, that is, against Croatia for his first game, because Jack obviously came off. We saw the ice bags were getting put on them shins. We've got to nurture him, got to make sure that the recovery is top notch for him. But obviously, I think, both of England's, the two starting wingers who you would assume Southgate would go with due to his loyalty, Dan, is Sterling and Rashford. And they've both been very underwhelming when it comes to England and tournament football. However, they're the pair that he's probably more than likely going to start. And it would suggest, obviously there's no Ollie in the squad, which is disappointing. We've seen Jack play out on the left. So it's interesting to see that Jack actually played centrally today, isn't it, Dan? Because you'd think, if anything, he would get his chance on that left-hand side.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I think that's why we all got so excited by the shirt numbers coming out the other day, wasn't it? Because with Jack being given the 7, that usually implies that he's got a decent chance of playing in the first 11. I know as you rightly said, it is more than likely that against Croatia we're going to see that front three of Sterling, Rashford, and Kane, as we have done with Southgate for so long. It's very tried and tested. We know that he likes to go back to these players that he's used previously, that he has a relationship with. Especially as we creep up to the Euros, and that group starts to look increasingly more difficult, doesn't it? I remember it being drawn and thinking, okay, England have got a decent chance there. And now actually those 3 games are going to be very, very difficult, each in their own right. And whoever does start in that lineup, especially in that attack, has got quite a job on their hands, because England looked a bit stagnant tonight going forward. I get that it's only a warm-up game. No player wants to exude themselves too much, wants to overdo it, pick up a knock, pick up an injury. And so that sort of, the players limit themselves a little bit in that regard. But England weren't very expressive. It wasn't too dynamic. The players' roles were sort of a little bit blurred. I think Kane at points slipped back into that sort of Spurs mould where he plays very deep, almost as like a false 9 at points before getting up, catching up with the defensive line and playing more advanced as and when Spurs approach the penalty area. We've seen him get all his goals and assists, often his assists from almost back at the halfway line at points. And so I thought he sort of slipped back into that, maybe by habit. I thought that sort of then impeded Jack a little bit when he was coming inside. It was all a bit rusty, I think. And that's why we have these warm-up games, I suppose, mate.
Yeah, definitely. And, great to see that, we were giving so many players the chances, albeit in somewhat frustrating circumstances, because Lingard came on. I thought the sort of opening 20 minutes where there was that kind of early dominance from England, he looked really good. And obviously he's going home. And, we've seen that with all the other players that he's brought on. Obviously, I feel like Southgate probably made a rod for his own back picking a 33-man squad initially, obviously having to trim the fat. I feel like it probably did help him save face, as all the reports were initially saying Trent's not in. There's all that kind of outrage. He's been smart. He's bought himself some time to really evaluate this squad. But Dan, I mean, he's had a whole year to pick this squad, hasn't he? I know obviously certain things will have come in and changed, but I think, with it's 11 days now, Dan, 11 days to that game against Croatia. And based off that performance, it's probably just as well we've got that out of the way, because, I don't want to be too negative. Obviously, I'm feeling fairly optimistic. Scotland had a very good result against the Netherlands tonight, Dan, as well, didn't they? Our very own John McGinn getting involved in that one, which is great for him. But obviously, we've got to play them in the groups. But I think the less said about England tonight, Dan, the better, because we've got to kind of move it on to the second half, to what the reason you guys have clicked for, because this is the title, this is the thumbnail. Emile Smith-Rowe, the Croydon Kevin De Bruyne, has been linked to Aston Villa. Now, Dan, this is crazy, because probably for the past sort of 18 months now, our Twitter feeds have been filled, and I mean filled, with Arsenal fans pretty much demanding that they signed Jack Grealish, saying it's a done deal. He's an Arsenal fan, digging up tweets from when he's at the Emirates, looks great, and using that as a reason why he's going to come. And today it's been reported by the Daily Telegraph's Mike McGrath that we are allegedly interested in Emile Smith-Rowe. And I think, to quote Michael Scott, how the turntables turn, table Dan. I think that's probably the best way to kind of sum that one up, isn't it? The fact that we've come so far and we're linked with one of, if not the hottest prospects from Arsenal's academy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this has come in the midst of, there's a sort of contract debacle going on. Well, I say debacle, it's not really at that stage yet with Smith-Rowe, whereas Arsenal and him are currently in talks over a new contract. He hasn't signed it yet. Apparently he's holding off, trying to leverage a better deal there or whatever, but he's not yet put pen to paper on that contract. And I think naturally rumours are going to swell. I mean, the link from Villa only says that we are interested in Emile Smith-Rowe. It's not like we're preparing a bid or anything like that. So it's very, very early rumours. I can't imagine we're the only club that are interested in Emile Smith-Rowe. I mean, I'm also interested in Robert Lewandowski, mate, but
yeah,
that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get him, does it? But no, Smith-Rowe's really exciting, mate. I think Arsenal have this situation where they're set to offer him a bumper deal. Arsenal had a very checkered season this year, but Smith-Rowe really stood out, especially in the second half of the season. He sort of emerged onto the scene in about November, December time, had 2 assists and a goal in his first 3 games for Arsenal, closed it out with goals in consecutive games against Arsenal, and then got the winner in a game against Chelsea as well, which I'm sure will live long in the memory. This is a really, I think personally, mate, even if nothing comes of this rumour, and I'll put it back to you on this one, it's clear to see the mould of player that Villa are going to continually be linked with this summer. That sort of Buendia mould, the Smith-Rowe, that sort of gliding, flamboyant playmaker that both of those players are. It's clear to see that that's becoming the pattern for the kind of player that Villa want to attract this summer.
Is it not the Grealish mould, Dan? I mean, look at Smith. He wears the socks low. He's got the small shin pads. It's all very much, in the vein of Jack Grealish. And I think if anything has proven this season is Villa, whilst they are not solely reliant on Jack Grealish, that sort of 18-game spell was pretty fucking grim without him, Dan. 4 wins without Jack Grealish since his mysterious injuries. But what really impresses me about Smith-Rowe is the fearlessness. And, you see, I think we've seen that in the likes of Ramsey, the likes of Carney, the likes of Jadon, who've all come on and played minutes in the Premier League. And they've not looked jaded by it whatsoever. And Smith-Rowe has come in, a really tumultuous time at Arsenal, because they are a club that are very much on the ropes. No banter aside, that club is a mess. They are ran so poorly that they've got a manager who I'm convinced will be a good coach one day. I just feel like the Arsenal job is 1, cursed, and 2, I don't think Arteta has kind of done the groundwork in order to get, to earn that job personally. And you've got a massive issue whereby you have your star player in Aubameyang who isn't performing on massive wages. That's not going to be a good look to the likes of Bukayo Saka, who obviously scored tonight for England, for Smith-Rowe. So as you kind of alluded to there, Dan, it wouldn't surprise me if potential interest from other clubs could be used to leverage a deal, even for him just to stay at Arsenal, because let's not forget he's an Arsenal fan. I think every time you hear Ian Wright talk about him, I think he used to play football with his dad at school. So he's a big Arsenal fan, Smith-Rowe is. So that is, of course, something to consider. We're not going to be like these deluded Arsenal fans or United fans saying that Grealish supports their club and has done since he's a kid. We can't be disillusioned by that. But the proposition of playing regular first-team football away from your hometown club, albeit, may be an attractive proposition for Smith-Rowe, Dan. But some things that excite me, again, shout out to FBref for the fantastic statistics. Within the top 1 percentile, Dan, of midfielders, attacking wingers, and midfielders, that's what they've grouped it as, for pass completion rate throughout for our calendar year, that is 87.4% pass completion rate per 90 minutes. Really important. And again, Dan, to kind of bring it back to what you said about the kind of mold of player that we are attracting, he leads from the front as well. It's so important that you kind of defend from the front with wingers, and I think that's something that Villa haven't. It's not quite clicked just yet, but he's averaging 1.02 interceptions per 90, 0.76 clearances per 90. So that defensive work, it can't go unnoticed. We've been screaming all season at both Bertrand and Amoir, to be fair, at times, saying they need to do more defensively. And it's good to see that that Smith-Rowe's popping in with these kind of contributions, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what you want from your young players who sort of play with that energy and that intensity that it comes with the excitement and the thrill of just being in the team. But it's more than just sort of headless chicken running, and those defensive contributions are really meaningful, mate. And he's doing a lot, which of his age he's just 20 years old. I mean, when you look at Arsenal's Premier League win percentage with him in the starting lineup, it's around 67%, which is really quite strong. That's more than you're winning, 2 out of 3 games. Without him starting, it drops to 30%. So that's a really remarkable drop off. And, there's going to be a whole load of other factors in that. I'm not saying that
it's solely on
doubles Arsenal wins. Yeah, it's solely on this 20-year-old. But it's something that, whilst it needs to be taken with a grain of salt, can't be ignored, mate. And that's a responsibility that he's shouldering. Arsenal fans seem to be really keen on him. And we mentioned him just the other day, mate, when we were talking about Buendia possibly going to the Arsenal and how Arsenal now look keen on Smith-Rowe. I think Arsenal are going to have a little bit more money than perhaps they would normally in other summers. Mesut Ozil's contract, that 350 grand a week deal that they're currently paying him, finally expires this month. Mental. So I'm sure that Arsenal, that's a huge. I mean, he's currently on loan at the moment, but Arsenal are still paying 90% of that 350 grand a week, and wow. He's not even playing for them, which is absolutely nuts. So that contract is finally up this year, and that's going to be a huge relief for Arsenal fans. And it's going to be an interesting sort of stick or twist now, I think, where Arsenal, and this is where players like Smith-Rowe and others who are pushing for increased roles in the first team, but with the likes of Ødegaard and Arsenal needing to get back on track sooner rather than later, do they go for a more established name in that position? For Buendia, who Arsenal are obviously linked with, as we discussed the other day, if he comes in, what does that mean for Smith-Rowe? If Ødegaard comes in and Buendia, what does that mean for those kind of players? And they've already sent him out on loan twice, once to Leipzig and once to Huddersfield. And so whilst I don't think that we quite get the shirts printed just yet, I would hold off on that for now, villains. It's something that, depending on the business that Arsenal opt to do going forward and how they try and rectify this sort of stagnant state that they find themselves in, it could have interesting implications for those kind of players.
100%, man. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm sure this isn't going to be the first or the last time that we hear about Emile Smith-Rowe to Aston Villa or to any clubs potentially. I think he's the kind of player that, I think any team will be, as you pointed out, Dan, at the start, anyone will be interested in this guy. He is a fantastic talent, and you guys will just have to let us know in the comments down below what you think about Emile Smith-Rowe. And if you're an Arsenal fan, say hi. You guys really helped us out with the Emi Martinez signing, so we'd appreciate it if you guys chimed in, did your bit on the transfer of rumour mill this season. So if you enjoyed, as I say, hit the like button, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. Be prepared for plenty more content from Dan and I with transfer rumor mills, with the Euros coming up. It's going to be mad, isn't it, mate? It's going to be absolutely crazy. So there's plenty of things for people to enjoy on the channel. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.